People have been criticizing our podcast setup.
Podcast setup? Yeah. This one?
Yeah, we got to get matching chairs. We got to...
Nah.
Man, I don't know. Look at this sweet table.
This is
upgrade.
really
Hey, we got to wait. This is part of our today's
upgrade?
sponsor.
Today's sponsor? Who's today's sponsor?
Blackheart Upholstery.
Oh,
They're
okay.
taking care of our podcasting tables because we had the one with the little chalkies. Greg hooked us up this morning.
This is an
I actually did all the
upgrade.
work, but he donated the supplies.
the material.
yeah.
So if you're interested in upholstery, check out Blackheart Upholstery.
There you go. He did the corners though, but
Yeah, it's nice.
He actually looks really good. Looks
Feels like leather.
it's final.
That's crazy.
Oh, here's one. This, if anybody can guess what this material and this pattern is out of, this is out of a car. Very specific car. It's specific to a brand.
Oh,
So
so
it's kind of like this basket weave pattern.
Yeah. Is this trivia?
This is trivia.
Oh, so if you're not watching it and you don't know what we're talking about, our table looks like some kind of crisscross woven weave thing.
Leather kind of thing.
What car? Ooh,
If anybody can figure out what it is, I'll give them a hoodie.
what if I guess?
You can try.
Is it out of a Volkswagen?
Nope.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
There's your hint right there. So it's not a Volkswagen.
No.
So you're already ahead of the game.
Okay. Yeah, if you get it correctly, send it to our email.
First one. I'm not giving everybody hoodies.
Oh, no, not
first
everyone.
correct
The
answer.
first correct answer. Hit us up on Instagram and let us know if you watch the podcast and what your answer is. Or you can hit us up on our email at trickfactorycustoms@gmail.com. So,
Sweet.
yeah. With that said, we are getting started. Thank you guys for watching today. Welcome. If this is your first time watching, my name is Elvis.
Tim.
Rob.
Awesome, and welcome to Modify with Trickfactory Customs. We are a custom automotive shop here in Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada. So today I think it's going to be very interesting. Usually on the podcast we talk about a lot about cars. We build really cool cars, and so we talk about modifying cars and tips and tricks and a lot of really cool stuff. And so today is going to be a really interesting topic because in the car community, there are some cars that people tend to overrate, or there are some overrated cars in the car world that sometimes we look at these things and we're like, nah, it is not worth whatever they're telling you of what the price is. And so we're going to decide. I actually did a lot of research for this episode. So
I'm excited. I can't wait.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And I think with this episode, it can probably go into multiple episodes. So if the cars that we talk about, if we don't mention anyone that you think is overrated, comment below or comment in the podcast, depending on what podcast platform you're listening to, and we will look into it and we'll probably make another episode on this. So
I feel like most likely.
yeah,
I think it's going to go on and on and on.
Yeah.
So we're just going to scratch the surface on this.
Ooh,
one.
and I feel like
Or apologize in advance.
yes,
if I hurt
we
your
apologize.
feelings.
Yeah.
If you happen to own one of these vehicles, sorry about your luck.
Yes, and some of these cars we were talking about, they are good, and so it's not that they're not good, but we're just saying they are overrated. So with that said, before we dive into the topic of discussion, what have you guys been up to all week?
For me, it's been mostly more of the same. Trying to get these new projects going, so a lot of back and forth and rendering guys and chasing parts, see what's going to work, what's not going to work, bouncing ideas back and forth, and then just trying to get it going.
And you're focusing on what right now?
The G-Wagon.
Okay.
So that's mostly what I've been doing. That and the opposite end of the spectrum, just cleaning the basement, getting
Basement?
some
Like downstairs?
yeah.
Oh.
Getting some new equipment set up, going back and forth, trying to get all that kind of stuff in place because these new projects are going to sort of push us to the next level. So I got to get all that kind of stuff happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's been sitting at the desk, not getting dirty, and then being in the basement and getting the dirtiest I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been actually legit putting in hard work. So
Yeah. And if you're
And
talking about
cheers to
the
that.
G-Wagon, if you don't know what we're doing again, I like to introduce our project. So in case you're interested, you can go to our full channel on Trickfactory Customs on YouTube. We're building an electric G-Wagon. I think this is actually the first time we're announcing it because we haven't made a video on it.
I think we mentioned about it, but we will be doing a video.
Yeah, we're doing like a whole video build series. And so we're doing quite a few electric swaps right now. So right now we have three?
Three.
Four? Okay.
3.
2 we're actively working on. The third one we're still working out.
Yeah, we've got to get some details sorted out on that one still. But the other 2 are big projects. Working with Revolt to get that whole system in place.
Yeah. And I don't think we've mentioned since we've jumped these projects off that the Cabriolet G-Wagon is going to SEMA.
Oh,
So it has a confirmed
okay.
spot.
Yeah.
And
confirmed spot already.
That's right.
SEMA
Now we're starting to
2023.
work with.
Nice.
So the project's evolved even since we originally started it.
Okay.
The whole scope of it. So now we're in discussions with a couple of different sponsors and getting that sorted out. So,
nice.
well, depending on if we get put in a media embargo or like we have in the past, it's like hopefully we don't.
okay.
So I got to clear a bunch of that stuff up. So hopefully we can show the process all the way through.
That would be
SEMA.
pretty awesome.
But hopefully it's not one of those ones we got to keep under wrap. But
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we don't want to keep everybody just sort of hangling.
I know. Come
We're
on.
not trying to dangle any carrots or
We need
anything.
content
but
here.
sometimes that's just the way that stuff goes, and hopefully we don't have to play that card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a cool project. You got a lot of cool things happening with
Yeah.
that.
SEMA 2023.
We're all really, really looking forward to jumping in on that one. The
So
Defender
excited.
as well.
Oh, yes.
But like both of them are going to be pretty significant.
Is
The
Defender
G-Wagon
going to SEMA?
sounds like it's going to be
The
great.
Defender's not going to SEMA.
No. No, the Defender's a cool project in its own way, but it's an entirely different sort of thing. I don't think it really
and
would
it's
be
mostly stock looking
Yeah,
on the
aesthetic,
outside.
it's
right?
gonna be-
So we want something.
So that has it maintaining. It's a 66, right? 66 Defender, like maintaining the look of 1966 with all of all the things that you can't see within modernized.
So cool.
That's going to be a unique challenge in its own way.
Yeah. Packaging.
I believe that the G-Wagon is kind of going the
The
opposite.
G-Wagon, we want to make
It's
very
like-
well known that it's EV.
Yeah, it's getting all of the wonderful things that go along with it to make it like super significant looking, and it will be a significant vehicle when it's done. So
Yeah.
I hope we can share that with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
as we go.
That would be so awesome.
The challenge with that one is he almost wants it to be like OEM level. So it's going to be very wild and very unique, but it's not going to be like we're going to have to employ a lot of new technologies. To
Oh,
pull it
yeah.
off.
Yeah. So it's not going to be as wild as your Evo?
No, my Evo is very raw. That's what makes
True.
it wild.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
going to be the opposite. It's going to be wild, but very refined.
Oh, okay. That's going to be awesome.
I mean, it's kind of to make it seem as if we never touched it at all. Like, really, I feel like he wants to have a vehicle that looks like it came from the factory that way,
okay.
but it was like, like the president of Mercedes' personal, built vehicle, like a one-off in the factory.
Okay, that's
And
cool.
so we're gonna take it, kind of to that level. Of course, we're gonna throw our own little style into it, our design work and some
our
of the
own
things that we
salt,
do.
our own salt bay.
We're gonna spice it up
Well,
a
that was
little
a
bit,
big
obviously.
struggle, and that was part of the last conversation was I'm trying to figure out his vibe and how far he wants to go. And at the same time, he's just like, take it as far as you want to go. But I don't think he actually understands
Knows
what that
what
means.
our
yeah.
version
Gotta
of
get on
that
the
is.
same
Like
page.
we got to try to, we're still sort of flushing out that middle ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Rob? What's been going on?
I mean, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place a little bit, but for the most part, I've been primarily focused on doing Thunderbird stuff. That project just kind of, it's a fairly big project, and we kind of touched on it a little bit last week when we were talking. And I'm just kind of following suit. We have a program in place, we have a vision that we're working towards, and we're just executing the install of all of these things, and like pretty much taking what was an original slightly modified Thunderbird, and we're making it like a brand new car. All the electronics, like, I mean, we talked about wiring and stuff before. A lot of that stuff, so we're completely redoing
Rewiring
it.
the things,
And not only just because we found some janky stuff, but like because we need to. Plus, I'm helping out the boys in the shop. Like, they're working on the Lambo still, and I'm getting in there. I'm doing some welding, helping them out when they need it. A little bit of metal shaping stuff when necessary. Not a lot, but that. And then, like, obviously like Tim was kind of touching on, he's doing a lot of like shop upgrades, preparing for new equipment, opening up floor space. We're always pushing to level up in projects, and we're always pushing to level up our shop so that we can execute more high-end projects. So
Always very well.
it's fun.
said. Yeah. Awesome. So with that said, we are going to dive into the topic of discussion for today, which is on overrated cars.
All right.
For 1 second, I was like, wait, where am I again? What's happening? So, yes, we're going to be diving into overrated cars.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, there's been not a lot of research, but I've put a few hours of research into looking into this. And it's because I have a thought of what I think some overrated cars are. But these guys that have done the research, I used 5 websites. I used Hot Cars, Goodwood, Jalopnik, A1 Auto Transport, and Goliath.com. They each most of them had like about 4 cars that were common.
I saw that too.
And so,
Yeah.
so with that said, we're just going to dive straight in. And so just tell me what you guys think. So, and this is in no particular order. So just so you know. And if we talk about your car, if it's your car, yeah, let us know how you feel in the comments below. So with that said, first one I think is going to be the Toyota Supra Mark IV.
The Mark IV.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that like one of everybody's dream cars?
Yeah. It's that was an interesting one because again, I'll dive into what they or what these articles in summary said, and then you guys tell me what you think. So they said it's good, but it's not 6-figure good.
I agree.
And a lot of cheap plastics, and you have the Supra tax whenever you're trying to buy something, which you've had experience with. You can share.
We have one in the shop.
Yeah.
We had first-hand experience dealing with Supra.
Yeah.
Super tax and super timeline.
Yeah. And then having to dump money into it to make it fast.
Based on its stock form, 100% overrated.
Super overrated.
But
Super overrated.
super overrated. But it's one of those cars that has immense potential. But to me, by the time you modified it and you get it to that point, maybe it's a 6-figure car. But as a stock car, absolutely
No.
not.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay more than $30,000 for a
Really?
stock Supra.
Yeah.
They're junk.
This car goes back to that time when car
That's so
manufacturing was.
They're terrible.
The interiors are junk.
Yeah.
Like
Freaking
Toyota,
plastic
I think that
everywhere.
Toyota Camry
It looks like a
interior was
Camry.
Nicer.
Yeah.
Actually.
Pretty much.
Like,
It
it's
has a
all
lot of
plastic,
Camry
it's
parts and all of that. I do really like the way the gauge it kind of faces
That
towards you.
cockpit shape is definitely more supercar-ish, so it has that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But it's still all just plastic Camry junk.
Yeah.
And that sucks because in today's day, all of that shit is fucking breaking apart.
Yeah.
And like you
Can't
need to
even
replace
touch
it.
it.
And good luck getting those
Finding
parts.
Yes.
Good luck.
It's interesting because and speaking about the Supra
Overrated.
tax too, you just bought. I think you have to replace the OG original Super Clutch
Yeah.
on it. So, but you were saying something about the transmission.
Oh, the
and how
original
much
V,
it cost.
the V160 transmission.
Yep.
Because when I was looking for parts, because this particular car that we have has its original transmission, everything was like T56, and I'm like, why is there so many options for a T56? Then I started to dig into it, and the V160 trans sells for like $35,000 US.
That's insane.
So that's like the
Mind-blowing.
worst possible
A
case
freaking transmission
of
Right.
Supra tax.
of a Supra, not even like a
So,
Lamborghini or something.
So then it became very like obvious why all Supras have T56.
Oh my
in them.
goodness.
Because it doesn't make sense to put a V160 back in.
Yeah.
Because you can buy like the most built, craziest Tremec for $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
On the low end, just a nice stock one that'll hold the power is probably $3,500.
Yeah, it was silly.
That's
a
crazy.
silly transmission.
Yeah.
Silly, like what is it? That little the actuator for the clutch.
Yeah.
All the clutch
And that's
system
all
works in
backwards.
reverse.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
know.
like-
That's so
just a
interesting.
friggin- it's
It's weird.
silly.
What's it called? So it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because like you say, you weren't going to buy it for anything more than $30,000. Because I was also doing the research on like what the things have gone for, like auction on Bring a Trailer over the years. In 2017, there was one that sold for $24,000 US, and versus now $232,000 for
What?
like a top trim, like And it blows my mind because I knew a friend that had a Supra and he paid 20 grand for his.
Wow.
And it was right-hand drive and everything. Had like the thing you press and like the spoiler on the bottom comes out or something.
wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shoot, it was red, it was nice. And then I was like, oh my gosh, 20 grand was awesome. And so, but now, and
If he still has that car, good
I know
on him.
I think he still does. I think he still
Sell
does.
it.
Yeah. I think part of the reason though why it's worth what it's worth now is the Fast and Furious movies.
I would have to assume
Yeah.
it had some sort of impact.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't even know what a Supra really was until that.
Same.
Yeah. I followed it from the time that it was new, and then obviously Fast and Furious brought it back to
Yeah.
everybody's attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's never really been a car that's like crazy on my radar.
No.
And
Like-
honestly, I don't really. I'm gonna add a lot of hate for this, but I don't really like the way the Mark IV looks when you compare it to other things in its day, like the R34. I think the R34 looks so much better than the Supra.
It's definitely got a more aggressive vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
And like the other competitor being the FD RX-7.
Oh
So,
yeah,
like,
that
those-
looks. Ooh,
Those three cars were like the cars, right?
I think it has an immense amount of potential to be modified,
Yeah,
but in stock trim, it's not
it's
that.
disappointing.
Like
yeah.
other than that crazy wing when it came out,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was like way ahead of its time. That wing, and that's what made that car very polarizing in its day.
the big wang.
Was the big wang?
Yeah.
But as far as the rest of the cars, not really significant. Not to me, anyways.
Yeah, I agree.
No, it's a dope car, but it's overrated.
yeah.
I mean, you got to do too much to it for it to be actually good. And even still, at the end of the day, it's still a big, heavy pig of a car. Like it actually is.
Yeah.
Like if you compare it, on a spec sheet to, cars that it should be competing against, it's a heavy car.
Oh yeah.
Well, not that that matters to most people, especially on the street, but it's, you can see it when you just look at it. It's,
Yeah.
It looks girthy.
It looks chunky.
yeah, it's chunky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
okay.
but it's cool.
Yeah. Next on the list, the Bugatti Veyron.
The Bugatti Veyron.
The Bugatti Veyron.
People are
Yeah.
probably just out there listening and watching, going, "What?
Yeah.
How could that be an overrated car?" It's like
I don't know.
so
about that one.
sophisticated.
Really? And
Yeah.
if you're not a huge car person, the Bugatti Veyron was known or is still known
Yeah.
for the first production car to hit 1,000 horsepower. It's insane. 4 turbochargers, W16 engine.
Breaking top speed records all the
yeah,
time. I mean,
crazy.
It's kind of been the car. Hasn't
Yes. But it looks like the angle that they took from was there's multiple things. One of them was the cost or cost to own. Another part was that it's a VW parts bin because they showed some parts that are from like Golfs or Passats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not a lot, but some of the parts are because it's a VW product. So
Okay.
they didn't want to make it like, I mean, they made it as great as they could, but there's still some of that stuff sprinkled here and there. Not a lot.
I think a lot of that stuff probably just makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say too. I mean,
Like, there's just no need for it to be anything
Re-engineer.
beyond what it is. So, I mean, it just so happens. Like, it's funny you say that because I just watched an entire documentary, not a documentary, I think it was Harry's Garage, visited Pagani. And then he's walking through the Pagani warehouse with our facility, which is absolutely insane. And then just me being me, I'm looking in the parts racks, not on what they're focusing on.
You're not even focusing on the video.
So in the end of the one parts rack, and if you find and you decide to go watch this, there's a crate there with a Mopar logo on it.
No.
Yeah. And I'm like, ooh.
Like a demon?
I don't
box?
know what it is. No, it's just a crate, like a cardboard crate full size on pallet rack, and it has a Mopar logo on it. And the whole
Oh,
rest of the thing, I was just like,
no.
I wonder what they're using in a Pagani
Yeah,
from Mopar.
From Mopar,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
That's crazy.
So like
Yeah.
Bugatti makes sense because it's owned by Volkswagen.
Yep.
So of course there's going to be that crossover. But what is Pagani doing with
I know
Mopar?
what Mopar parts. They need the head gaskets. I don't know.
maybe Horatio just wants to burn tires on
Yeah,
occasion too. You know?
Maybe he's got a Hellcat. There's a Elephant motor sitting up there.
Yeah. But so the Bugatti initially cost, I think, over $1 million, but now they're like $1 million plus. That's also maybe why I think they put this on the list. but also maintenance costs, which if you guys did not know, you probably know, you might know as well. But let me just give you guys some highlights of maintenance costs.
Okay.
So, a new set of tires is 38 grand.
Not anymore though.
I know, but true. That's true.
Some of these things have
not
been
anymore.
corrected.
They've changed a little
But,
bit.
See, that's my argument with some of this, and like this one, I would have to defend out because I probably have an idea of what's coming up. But like the Bugatti at the time that they developed all this stuff,
It was brand new.
it was brand new. They're the ones that developed it. So now everybody else has been able to poach it and create vehicles that are on par with the Bugatti was 15 years ago.
But is it OEM Bugatti stuff though? Because for like the tires, for example, as well, to add to that, is the wheels need to be replaced every 5 years.
The wheels did.
Yeah, because from what I understand, they're glued to the
The
tires.
tires are glued to the rim
Yeah.
because at the time there wasn't a tire available.
Yes.
So what does it cost to call and get your own tire
50
made?
grand for
Yeah.
wheels. And then,
What?
yes, I know, for us a set. And then total is pretty much, you're going to maybe every 5 years change wheels and tires. Pretty much 100 grand every 5 years. But I know, yes, there are other like aftermarket options, but are they OEM Bugatti? Because I know the Chiron uses new tires, use like
Now
different
they
technology.
have something on
yeah,
the shelf.
but if you want like I don't know if the one that are stock completely goes for like a higher resale value as opposed to you taking out the tires and putting modified ones or
Well, lots of people did that after
Yeah.
the fact, so they could actually drive their cars. Because to maintain, to be able to do those top speed runs and all that kind of stuff, that was a tire and rim combination that they needed to be able to do that. You're never doing that on the street.
yeah.
Like they're doing sustained top speed runs for like an hour.
Yeah.
Like tell me another car that could do that. There's not very
True.
many. So they needed a very specific thing to do that wasn't available at the time.
Yeah.
Now in the interim, that types of speeds in cars now, like 1,000 horsepower is not crazy now. It's not almost, guys have 3,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
So now all that other stuff, the technology is caught up. So at the time, by today's standards, and everybody seems to have stuck to that wheel and tire thing on the Bugatti, but it's like it's over. It's gone now.
No,
now
but-
it's significantly cheaper.
And so I'm talking about OEM Bugatti stuff. Like you not getting aftermarket wheels. Like you still want that. Like for example, if I'm buying a Bugatti, I
that
want to
whole
buy
process
it.
now is a lot cheaper.
Oh,
I think it's
okay,
like 50
okay.
grand.
Still though,
It's still crazy, obviously, but
Yeah, that's absurd, right? And
Yeah.
even if you just took those wheels and tires off, put them on the shelf,
and
they're going
replace
to
them
age
with-
out.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll
exactly,
age out.
exactly. So
yeah,
So that
That's
was just one.
the
What
pretty-
are your thoughts, Rob, on,
I
on
think-
those prices?
I think that's ridiculous.
And the fuel
Like-
tank, $20,000 to replace the fuel. No,
So-
$20,000 to buy the fuel tank, and then
Okay.
$22,000 to replace it, like on
but-
labor.
So what was the whole reason why you had to replace a fuel tank? Like,
I don't know. It was just part
that's-
of the research.
That seems absurd to me, and that sounds like
yeah, but those
some
are packaging
overrated
issues.
shit.
Because you look at like the McLaren F1, same thing. It has a fuel cell. It's more of a bladder
Mm.
because it has to fit in a very odd shape, and they're
Interesting.
making the most of packaging. So that's why it is what it is. So
Mm.
they can't use a normal material like you would in a production car because the shape of it would cost too much to produce that part. So they use like a bladder and put it in there.
It's pretty much standard for a lot of things now, though, is it not?
I don't think
Like
they-
weird ass
Oh,
shaped
bladder?
Yeah,
bladders
but
and
it's
stuff
probably more
within.
so now. But what does it cost? Like, it's easy to make like a blow mold for a plastic gas tank if you're making 50,000 of them. But if you're making
Yeah.
50, it probably doesn't make sense.
I mean, so much of this stuff definitely comes back to like the time in which this stuff was developed as
True.
well, right? Like technology advances so rapidly. They say it evolves exponentially every couple of years. And like at that time, they developed all the tech just
Yeah,
to make
and
it
then
even
just the
possible.
cost
So
of
that
that.
was it was
And they're selling them at
unbelievably
a
awesome.
loss.
Yeah,
So like now all this stuff is like, it's easy to copy other people. It's
Yeah.
either to improve upon, but to develop from scratch. Like how many things in the Bugatti that they dropped at that time that are now
Never.
common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like double clutch.
Yeah, that was not a thing back then.
That was not a thing. They developed it. What does it cost to develop that? So I would say on this whole list, and I don't know what the other cars are yet, this is probably the only car on the list that in reality has depreciated. Whereas I bet you the
How?
rest of all have appreciated. Because you can buy a Veyron now for like not much over retail.
Yeah, but
You're seeing them for sale for like 1.3.
Oh, I see what you
1.5.
mean. Okay.
Whereas like I know for sure there's cars on this list that have appreciated by 50
Yeah.
fold.
Okay, so you're looking at it from the point of what did it cost new and what does it cost now?
right.
Oh, I see.
So I don't
okay.
necessarily think that the Bugatti, based on the technology that it brought to the market,
Mm-hmm.
that is now being used by almost every other car manufacturer, is overrated.
That's
Because
a
just
good
the
point.
cost of developing it and them selling those cars at that time at a loss is like crazy in itself. There's not another car on this list I know it. I'm
Oh, okay.
calling it right now that has the same premise.
Yeah.
So, next car. This one, I'll just gonna say, I don't completely agree with it,
Okay.
but again, it's on the list because it was top 4 out of 5 sites that rated it as overrated. The Porsche 911. Ooh. Yeah. So. So it's so far I think
I could see
from
the
reading it, it was like classic and modern, like both. They kind of went for the route of that the 911 in itself, the type of design, it's almost flawed because it's a rear engine car.
Yeah.
When you compare it to the Cayman is a better driver's
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, you-
minus the power. It's a better drive, but Porsche nerfs the Cayman because they don't want it to
Yeah.
supersede
You
the
can't-
911.
That's right. I mean, you don't want to.
That's internal
The flagship.
politics.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then, classic 911s, like the values today
Yeah.
are insane because back in the day, I'm sure you had a 911, right?
I did. I had a 78 911 SC.
And you have a new one, like a 996 as
the
well right
996
now.
now, yeah.
But they were saying, like pricing these days, it's kind of getting ridiculous.
It is. It's friggin' absurd what that stuff costs now. But I mean, if you think, okay, so I'm gonna
Okay. Okay.
Porsche, probably one of the most
Okay,
winningest.
we gotta set the tone here. He's got a Cayenne 996 and he's previously had a 911. So this is coming from that perspective.
I'm a little biased.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. He's
I'm a little
he's
biased.
feeling his heart is
It's
burning.
getting hot in here right now. I feel like I need to defend this car.
Okay. So defend away.
Defend them way. The most winningest car in motorsports history. Drive your car to the track, win the race, drive home, get groceries on the way, take your kids for ice cream that weekend. Come on.
True.
Best car.
What about reliability issues?
That's what makes it the best car.
It's still
Because
Still the most reliable.
if you think about sports cars that you see on the day to day, like you look around, and I'm sure there's probably some stats out there. Look at how many cars they sold over all the years of manufacturing. Probably, I can't even begin to imagine what it is, but it's got to be like absolutely staggering compared to every other car that is its direct
That would be
competitors.
my argument in this because we get roasted all the time because we do like these RSR conversions and wide body Porsches, but they're not overly rare. It's like there is quite a few rare models that sort of help push the value of some of these particular era of Porsches, but they're not overly rare.
No.
And they're not. There's a lot of them, so
Yes.
it's not like we're taking something and chopping it. Like, oh my god, that's the perfect car. You're like, man, they made a million of these things.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine, it's okay. Like, it's gonna be.
And I would agree, it is the perfect car.
Because you were saying like, or was it one of you was like back in the day, like you would see 911s just parked on
Yeah,
their
they're like
freaking
time.
garages and no one ever drives
Yeah,
them.
nobody drove them, and it's like they'd be sitting all over the place, and then all of a sudden, at some point, that transitioned, and then they went wild, and then now they're crazy amount of money.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like they've stayed pretty steady, like pretty solid. Like we all thought it was just going to skyrocket and then fall on its face and you're going to get stuck with some, but they seem to be holding. Like even now where everything's starting to come down quite a bit, they seem to be holding pretty steady. But they are reliable. They're easy to work on, and parts are not crazy expensive.
And they're super easy to drive.
Yeah.
Like,
no, they
actually,
are good cars
like,
to drive.
The G50 Trans, like
Oh, yeah.
my car.
Yep.
Like compared to the 915 Trans that was in my old Classic, it's buttery smooth. It's super easy to drive. Like anybody you could learn how to drive a manual in a Porsche 911 of like the 996 generation and up or whatever. Like, it's just so simple to drive. Easy.
Yeah,
like, I went
great.
directly from a Testarossa that we had in our shop, which I had to drive, obviously, because it's a Testarossa.
Yeah.
And like, I went from that car directly into my 911 and drove them back to back. 911 all day long. It's like, it's an easy car to drive.
The Testarossa doesn't
anything
even,
like
I don't
that.
think it'll fit people, or maybe it probably fits you.
Fits
but
pretty well.
I sat in it.
Come on
I was
now.
like, oh my gosh. I was like,
It's a Testarossa. It's dreamy. But they're actually not that great either. But anyways, that's a different car.
But the 911 is a great car to drive. Like, I've gotten the opportunity to drive quite
I would
a few.
say, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're
if
good.
anything, not overrated, but overpriced.
100%.
Because Porsche has never tried to be the hype.
Yeah.
Like, they never claim to be the absolute fastest. They're not chasing that kind of hype. They're always just chasing making an amazing car. Yes, there's faster cars, cheaper cars, but for what they've made, and it's never been a hype car. It's like you try all these things and you end up at Porsche.
Yes.
Because you'll go buy a Ferrari and this costs too much to maintain, this. And if you're a true enthusiast and you want a proper sports car, you're always going to end up back at a Porsche.
They are so good, and they've made them for over 50 years, and the recipe has stayed relatively the same.
80 years.
80, yeah. I said over, so it
Yeah,
could,
you're so technically right.
yeah.
But it's like they stayed with that one platform and continually developed
evolution.
the same platform.
Yeah.
So there's definitely models that are heavily overpriced, but not overrated. I don't think so.
I mean, the common thing that they always say against the 911 is, the rear engine, that whole layout that they came up with and developed, and they've had the whole history of the 911 to refine this. Like, look at a 992
Oh my gosh.
Porsche now.
It drives so good.
It's still a rear engine car,
is,
but
yeah.
like, you ask anybody that like really drives hard, like anybody, and that it's like one of the best cars.
Is that it's too good.
That is so true. It almost feels perfect. Like, you're like, how in the world can you even get better than this? Because the technology has been insane. Like, you can get them in so many different configurations too. All-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, manual, PDK, like so many things. And
it's pretty remarkable that they
gosh.
stuck with the same formula
crazy
over all this time, even though every single time people talk because of the layout. And it's like, yeah, it's a rear engine car, but they make it work. It's awesome.
But
like, and I will say, like, there's no other car in the world that drives like that. Not that I haven't driven all the cars in the world, obviously, but it's a pretty significantly different driving experience than anything I've ever experienced, and I think everybody should drive one.
I still say the Cayman is a better driver's car than a 911.
Yeah, you see, and that's the other side of it is now that's 100% true. The Cayman is a better driving car.
Oh my god!
Tim had a really dope one. Yours was the 987, Cayman S,
which is probably my favorite car that I've ever owned.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, the bar's been set pretty high. Like,
he's still
pretty crazy car.
Are you gonna get another one?
I get tagged in it every.
Oh, sorry.
Like, with all the modifications that I did to it, I still get tagged in it every single time that car sells.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy.
That's a sick car. And see, and the wonderful driving experience that the Cayman brought to the table is exactly why the Porsche race team in the 911R is a mid-engine layout.
It is mid-engine?
It's a mid-engine layout.
I didn't know
in
that.
the new spec 911R
That's
race cars.
actually cool. So they admitted it, and they were like,
so they're just like, you know
Yeah,
what,
but they
this
admitted
works.
it in like the 70s.
The rear engine, layout is still an existing car in production. They do that, and it still is an exceptional car.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. They've engineered it to perfection.
But I think I don't really know what their thing is, but they must have just been like, you know what, the mid-engine is just a little bit easier to drive. And I think, like, if you think back to like articles or whatever, videos from history, you would always see like the Porsche factory would have like their factory drivers. And as soon as they found a driver that was like really good at driving that car, because it's a different kind of experience driving it, they would stick with that driver until they were done their career. And that driver wouldn't want to go to anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
because
That's
they'd
good.
win the most races in a Porsche.
Yeah.
But like it was just that. It was, I think, probably most people's gripe would be that it's not an easy car to drive, especially when you start getting back into like more of the classics,
Previous area.
and like
Yeah.
like the
930 turbo.
996 is still like all very analog. There's no ABS that works well, traction control, all that stuff, stability control, not even a thing. So like it's challenging to drive. 997 got a little bit better, obviously. The 991, now the 992, all this stuff with all these aids make these cars exceptional.
Yeah. Awesome.
But
yeah. Perfect. That's a good way to transition into the next car on the list, which is, drum roll, the BMW E30 M3.
E30 M3.
E30 M3. Like, so in this, there was a few BMWs, but this one, some people just said the E30 in general. But they said it has good power, but it's not great by today's standards.
Yeah.
250 horsepower. It's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That era.
Yeah,
In that
not
era,
bad.
that generation. And that was a light car too.
Yeah.
Like, gotta remember, like in that year of like those manufacturing times,
They didn't have
cars
all the-
were a lot lighter back
Yep.
then. So
And
that
so-
was pretty significant.
Some of the same suspension, they said, can be traced back to the 1960s.
I don't doubt that. Like the E30
Yeah.
is the chassis itself requires a lot. I mean, there's a lot that we can use with today's tech to improve on that, and I think that's probably why you see a lot of E30s now coming up. You know, in the the 190Es from the Mercedes, the E30s from the BMW. See, these cars are just like on the rise. Everybody wants one.
Yeah.
because you can make them great now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But as they were, yeah, probably overrated.
And
Probably
then
not easy to drive.
also engine reliability issues. That's a huge one that plagues them. And just to give you an example of the price, it blows my mind now. So in 2016, a BMW M3 sold for E30 M3 13 grand.
Yeah. Spark
Now-
one up. I'd take that.
A really nice one sold for, I saw it, $256,000 doll hairs.
Man, who
US.
what amazing race
Yep.
driver drove that car?
Mind blowing. And so, what do you guys think about that?
That's absurd. It's absurd.
Yeah, I can't get behind that.
I would
Average
never.
prices are like 80 grand, 70,
Yeah.
80 grand.
Even still, even 80 grand. No way.
I think 80 grand is based on those cars being 13 grand for a long time. So like for it to be 80 grand is because there's very few really nice ones left.
Oh, I see.
That's the only thing dictating price in that because it's not, to me, it's not a significant car at all.
No.
Yeah.
Not styling wise, not
No.
performance wise, none of it. Like, so that car, I truly believe is completely overrated.
Yeah,
Really?
I agree
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
That car that deserves to be on this list.
I also
No.
agree
No,
that it's overrated.
It requires way too many modifications. Yeah.
I had an opportunity to buy one for $4,500 when I was like
Gosh.
18
back
or
then,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But it just wasn't, even at the time, like a Civic Si would stomp you. So you're like, oh, I don't want
Why would I
this.
want
That's
that?
crazy.
Like,
Yeah. So I would say almost all 80s, 90s BMWs, if we could put it in a summary, I think at least should be included in this list.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of great BMWs from that time that are underrated, in my opinion.
Oh, we should do another episode on that. Underrated cars.
underrated cars.
far
Yeah.
as-
So,
Comment below.
yeah.
But we'll save that for next
Yeah,
time.
I'll save that for another time.
So I saw on a list, and it kind of made my soul hurt a little bit. But there was an E60 M5
Yeah.
on someone's list of overrated cars, and it was just like,
Yeah.
oh, that hurts because I have
think-
one of those.
Yeah, no, I think that
No.
one is, I'll say it's a good, for what I don't know what they charge. I didn't do research on that, but I don't know what they're going for right now.
They're not going for very much.
But like if they're like in the high 20s, I'll say it's worth it. Right now.
Right now, they're
like
probably
a good
like
one.
30 US for a good one, 35 US. So I don't really think that. What else are you going to buy for that much
True.
money? That
V10.
has the
Yeah.
same.
Like, yeah.
I think that, okay, I mean, so we're getting onto a different car, but I believe that car was absolutely amazing, but like in its time, probably overly complex, and I would see there's a
Yeah.
point why it's a little overrated,
Yeah.
overly complicated, but still an absolutely phenomenal car.
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. So we all agree on the BMW E30 M3.
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. So sorry, Beamer boys, don't come after us.
No,
So
unless you want to modify the crap out of it.
true. Then come after us. Yes.
Then we'll get into it.
And then final car on the list for this episode. And again, if we didn't mention the car that you're like, oh my gosh, this car is very overrated, why didn't you guys mention it? Mention it in the comments, and we'll probably take that list and compile it and make another episode on this, because I feel like there's still a lot of cars that we're not talking about right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the last car on the list, it's no surprise, the Nissan R34 GTR.
What?
No surprise, I think. But Rob sounds like he has a different idea. Different. Rob does not agree.
I don't agree.
So
The car's awesome.
they said the power's good, is okay. Like,
It's not great. Even
no.
the V-Spec is not
It's
great. It's
okay.
like 320 horsepower.
yeah, it's heavier than everything, almost everything else on this list.
Yeah.
All-wheel drive system, heavy. It's less agile, and it has the RB26 has a lot of famed issues.
Yeah.
It's also not worth the prices today, because you can get you can never find an R34 for less than $100,000
Yeah.
today. Greater than 100,000, and one just sold a few months ago for like $310,000.
Yeah, I think we were looking
US.
at that. Insane.
What?
And you see a lot of people got them listed after the fact. After that, now I see guys listing them for like 450, 500, and there's
It's
just
so
no way.
stupid.
Like, it's out of control.
Like what?
That
And-
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
at all.
Like, it's a friggin'
Because even
cool
that's
car.
not even
Come
a
on.
super rare car.
No.
They made 1 million of them in Japan. Like, they've been cutting up those cars for like 20 years. So now there's so few of them that maybe that's pushed
Yeah,
up the
sure.
pushed up the rate.
sure.
Yeah.
But it's
I
just
don't-
not. I mean, of all the cars that we've spoken to, I've had an opportunity to drive all of them, and it is not a significant car.
No. I
just
completely agree. It's good. It's a good car.
It's a great looking car.
It looks amazing.
Like all the other couple of the other cars, like the FD, the Supra, the Skyline. They have crazy potential, but you can't base this particular conversation on potential.
Yeah.
It's just on the car itself, and the car, the way it comes,
The way
is
it
not
comes.
great.
No.
Yeah.
It's got bad electronics, same idea, same cheap plasticky interior. It's a brick, and it's like even the evolution of it to the R35 is still a brick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just
R35 is freaking heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
I
a
feel-
great car. It's solely based on styling and just hype.
Yeah, and emotion.
Like
Yeah,
these guys
hype.
have created their
Fast
own.
and Furious.
Yeah.
I think that
100%.
also helped this
Straight
car
up.
too.
Straight
yeah.
up.
So
I agree. I think it is an overrated car for a lot of all those reasons. I will say it was pretty cutting edge with technology.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
the interior, the
The Gran
electronics, and
Turismo
everything
gauges.
that they
That's-
had going on in that
computers.
was just absolutely insane. It was awesome, but like it comes back to that whole thing. Like, manufacturing and technology in that time was infantile. Like, it was they were just trying to figure it out, and they put all their things into that, and it just doesn't work good.
well,
And,
that's
like,
the in defense of those cars is they were pushing technology at the time so hard
Yes.
to try to make it better, but it just didn't last.
age- yeah.
It didn't
Didn't
age
age well. Mhm.
So it's like now those are the things that have caused the car to become problematic.
Yeah, and that definitely, puts it on the list for being overrated. Like,
Yeah.
the problematic nature of most of these cars that we're even speaking about is just like the cost of ownership. Like, it's
Yeah.
great if you just want to own it and look at it. That's super cool. Get your feels just by looking at it emotionally.
But now, by
But
today's
driving them is a
standards,
different
it's like
thing.
That Supra, to go back to the Supra, is like everything you need for it is 3 months away, or
And
unless
costs
you're willing
so
to pay
much.
3 times as much.
Yep.
Right.
So when you're on the computer, you're like, okay, I need this. It's like, oh, I can get it from this guy tomorrow for 1,000, or I can wait 3 months and get it for 300. So it's always this like
Yeah.
struggle. Like,
Guessing game.
you know what I mean? Like the guys that have this stuff are literally holding at ransom, which also
So sad.
translates into the value. Like, okay, well, if every single part for this car is $1,000,
Sweet.
makes sense that it's worth
Yeah.
$100,000. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. It's a 30 grand car that a bunch of people are holding you hostage to try to, because they know like you're going to be down for. Even the stuff we had to do on that car is taking a year. Like, nobody wants to own a car like that. Nobody does.
Yeah, and going back to the GTR thing too, I also think the reason why it costs so much right now is just because they never sold in North America. And so the North American guys are like, you grew up looking at this car, playing it on like Gran Turismo, playing it on these video games.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, I can afford it now. And so you're almost willing to pay almost anything that they would
Just
give
to
you.
have it.
Just to have it.
Like,
yeah.
you're trying to find the cleanest, best version of it.
Yeah.
And if you have all the money in the world, it's not a big deal to pay 100 grand for a
No.
car. Like, if you're sitting on 25 mil and you're like, I just need to have it.
Yeah, at whatever
But you
cost.
got one other guy that's got 18 mil. He also wants to have
Yep,
it.
and
now
start the
all
bidding
this thing's
war.
$180,000,
Yeah.
and then the next guy's like, oh, mine's worth that much. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that one was worth that much because these two guys wanted it, which creates a market, and it's like a false market.
Yeah.
And then it goes crazy.
Yeah, again, not to say these cars are not good cars.
They're great cars. They're
Yes,
cool cars.
They're
They're
good
just
cars.
not worth that
They're not
much money.
worth
No.
100,000, 300,000.
I think if you were a normal guy and you did push yourself to get that car for whatever reason, say your grandma left you 200 grand and you went and bought a V-Spec GTR, you're gonna be disappointed.
very
100% you're
Yeah.
gonna be disappointed. But if you got all the money in the world and you just have to have one,
Sure,
for it,
go ahead.
100%.
Yeah.
Because it's a cool car.
Yeah,
No,
It's
it
got
is.
a great aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, its presence is awesome. And I mean, all the history and hype behind it, the whole Godzilla thing, like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It
But
really
it's
is.
not 500 grand.
No.
It's not that cool.
No. And again, like, same thing with all the cars that we talked about. All these cars are really cool, or all these cars that have been here. Some of them we agree with, some we don't. But for the most part, like, especially 90s JDM cars,
Are way over.
they are just way overhyped and overpriced
And if you
for
want to
what they
start
are.
talking about parts bin thievery, those cars are all like super guilty of it.
Yeah.
But of a much lesser car. Like,
Yeah.
you got Tercel parts in
Yep,
there. you got
everything.
pickup parts in there. Like, buying parts for that thing, you get a power steering pump out of a, Toyota pickup. Same pump. Like,
Yeah.
So they jacked a lot of stuff. So they're just not worth it to me.
That's so
No.
funny.
No, it's funny how like a lot of manufacturing was like that back in the day too, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like, remember when you discovered that the alternator in the Testarossa was
It's out of a 79 Corvette.
No way.
absolutely
A Ferrari's
Huh?
using Corvette parts.
AC
There's that
Delco, all
Testarossa
there.
hack.
You buy
What?
it as a Ferrari part, it's 4,500 USD. You buy it as, well, I just took that one out and had it rebuilt as though it was out of a 79 Camaro
Oh my
or a
god.
Corvette, and it was like $145.
Yeah, I think that in itself deserves a video on our main channel of the hacks that you can do or research you could do to find all these deals, because a lot of times, like you just mentioned about not the Testarossa, now Lamborghini did it with the 300ZX tail lights.
Oh, yeah.
Or headlights, and they use the same
Well,
headlights
even
as
the
a
Testarossa,
Lamborghini
like, you can even
Diablo.
deeper than that, and like, I've found sensors in there because that era, like we just mentioned, is like, that was all fairly new technology. So a lot of them didn't have proprietary electronics.
so
they
they
were
just-
using, like, these guys produced this sensor that
Yeah.
did this. So this is a Bosch sensor, also out of a 318 BMW that just happens to be the same one part number out of a Ferrari. So you buy the
Wow.
Ferrari one is 900, the one out of the 318 is 45 bucks.
yeah.
Power windows, $2,500 a side for Testarossa. They're out of a Fiat.
No.
You can buy both for $450.
Oh my
So
god.
there's so many parts bins,
Yeah.
like little hacks and stuff. And I mean, a lot of times we'll pass that on to our customer because it's fun for me. It's like a treasure hunt. And then I've locked customers in for life because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
Wow, you
I
I
saved,
mean, what
saved us
customer
so
isn't
much.
gonna love that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
so
Anything else before we end this episode?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, every one of these cars that we talked about, all three of us right here, we would all want these cars.
oh, I
Like,
definitely
100%.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Each and
yeah.
every one of these cars.
Yeah.
We may talk it a little bit, but, like, we all still want them.
Oh yeah. I gave the opportunity to came.
And
I would
I
totally
think
get.
in today's time, we're actually at a pretty interesting time where our technology now, our parts availability for aftermarket support and certain things makes it so that each and every one of these cars, you could have one of these cars, go buy one, and then just commit to like changing some things, make it a driver.
I think a more difficult conversation would be underrated cars.
Yes.
Because this argument is easy. We can
Yeah,
take
yeah, yeah.
anything and make it awesome with
Yeah,
money.
Oh, yeah.
Like we throw money
Yeah.
and parts on it, we can make anything awesome. But
Yeah.
underrated cars is a much tougher conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have that next time. as well.
Underrated cars.
Underrated
Let's
cars.
talk
So if
about
you have
that.
any suggestions for that, comment in the comment section. Also, we are going to do a part 2 of this as well, because there's some cars that you guys have in mind that are overrated, but we didn't even mention them.
Back
We didn't
here
mention
before we
them.
even got into it.
So if you want to see that, subscribe to the Modify with Trick Factory Customs podcast. You find us on YouTube, any podcast platforms you listen to. And if you want to check out all our full videos and our full channel, check out Trick Factory Customs on YouTube. So with that said, have a great week. We'll see you. Actually, no, not next week.
Next year.
We'll see you next year.
Yes.
For season 2.
Yes. So
Modify
season
with
1 is
Trick
done.
Factory
Yeah. So thank you guys for such an awesome season. We've had like 17 episodes
Really that many?
or something,
Wow.
17 or 18. So yeah,
cool.
it's
cool.
pretty awesome. So let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys in the new year.
Yeah, wow.
Awesome. Bye.